Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica, and today I want to talk about please don't feel afraid to make mistakes. Please don't feel embarrassed when you're making a mistake. Based on my limited experience, I think making mistakes is the ultimate way to practice your English. Especially when you have the chance to go to abroad, you find yourself standing in a very weird situation. You're standing on the street, you're talking English, you're so afraid because your accent, your pronunciation, your way of saying English is not usual to other people. You may think that your English is good enough, but actually, to your own standard, it's never perfect. It's never enough. It's far from what you expected. So my point is, how can we train ourselves to be less concerned about making mistakes? Because making mistakes could make us feel terrified, could make us feel short, could make us feel so little that we don't want to talk about anything in English, could make us feel so embarrassed, make us feel like we're so awkward, we're so strange, we're living in this strange behavior mode that I have to speak other people's language in order to talk to other people. Can I ever speak in my own language? I know it's so hard to conquer. When I was young, I always thought I could speak English perfectly, because when I listened to other people's recording on the tape, yes, we still use tapes at that time. So I would just definitely copy every word they said, the feelingness, the vibe when I'm using specific words. I was so happy I actually copied exactly the right word, but that's just my imagination. I imagined myself to speak perfect English. I imagined myself could have multiple opportunities to speak English. I imagined myself that I would practice English every day. I would enjoy it. I would happy about it. I would like to talk to people about it. I was so enjoying practicing English by myself every day at my own living room. And I don't have an apartment at that time. I just have to close the door of my bedroom and stand up in the middle of my bedroom because it's very crowded. It was very crowded. There was bed, there was bookshelves, there was a big computer in front of me. I have only a little bit of space to moving back and forth. Practice English make me feel like I no longer belongs to this crowded area where I have no freedom to walk. I have no freedom to do stretching, exercising. I have the freedom because my mouth is the freedom. I can speak and speak and speak and practice and practice, practice. I don't need to do really stretched, overload movements. So I was proud of myself to practice English, but practicing English is different than actually speaking in English to other people, because you get feedback, you get real-time judgment in front of you. That's terrifying. That's really nerve-wracking. When I'm talking to other people, I was so nervous. I need to staring at other people's eyes all the time to figure out what exactly they're saying, especially if they speak very fast. And I was so nervous, I couldn't even say a word, even though I know there's a lot of things I want to say. But I couldn't say it because I'm so afraid to make mistakes. I'm so afraid that people may actually sue me. They can see that I'm not good at it. I'm not good enough to talk in English. So I was so afraid. I decided I won't speak out loud at all. I will only practice at home. And that results in a bad way. Because if you want to learn English, your aim is to talk to other people. Your aim is to express your opinion to other people. Your fundamental goal is to living in a life where you can speak English perfectly, freely. That's your goal. But if I'm so terrified to speak, I can only practice English in my own house. What's the point of practicing English? What's the point of learning English? I can do a lot of things at my home. See, I've just been back from a very long trip in England. And then when I first step in my own house, I feel so liberated. I feel so happy that I could do whatever I want. I could read a book, I could sit down in front of a computer, I could scroll my iPhone, I could talk to the camera, I could start editing, I could do whatever I want. Why? I'm learning English. And if I'm so limited, if I'm so terrified to speak to other people, the only aim to practice English, the only aim to speak English is to practice with other people, to actually talk to other people. So I decided that I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to cover myself. I don't want to withdraw from the conversation because that would make people feel so weird because we're socializing. What are you doing? You're just hide in the corner pretending you not exist. That's so antisocial. We don't want to socialize with you anymore. And that's the consequence. I don't want that sort of consequence. So I said to myself, so how can I ever, just put my self-interests aside and actually step up and talk to people? And during the whole trip, I was listening to other people was talking about the issue that interested them. And I just realized, even though they are native speakers, they are still making mistakes. Because making mistakes is a sign that you are actually thinking. If you're not thinking, you are not be able to make mistakes because you're perfect, you're silent. But when native speaker talking about things, they need to think, they need to have their brain functioning. If I'm not using my brain, I cannot speak anymore. So when they're talking, they're constantly thinking about what I'm gonna say next. So that will make them make mistakes because sometimes when you want to say this point and suddenly your brain tells you, oh, there's another idea come up, please say that. And you need to stop and try to wrap up all those opinions in your head and to try to speak out loud and try to fit into the original ideas you want to express. And that's the mistake you want to make because your head is forever producing ideas and you need to learn how to organize them, how to make them line by line, make them parallel with each other and make them make sense when you talk to other people about them. And that's the beautiful way to practice English. I used to dream that if I speak English in front of camera, I need to prepare, I need to write a script, I need to recite a script, I need to have a teleprompt, and I could actually read it out loud according to the teleprompt. And I actually did. I tried to teleprompt, I tried to memorize everything I tried to say, and I'm so proud I actually could remember that much because it's such a huge article. I could write that much and I could actually remember that much. And every time I tried to write something, I was so proud of that. And then when I actually remember all of them and try to recite in front of camera, that was the fundamental moment I feel so defeated because everything I said made me feel so nervous because I have to remember them. I have to look at them like I recite them just for this little bit of section, maybe just one sentence, and then I immediately recite them in front of camera. And this back and forth procedure make me feel so tortured brutally that I can no longer hold on to it. I can no longer recite any more scripts because I don't want to. I want to speak freely. I want to express my thought freely. I want to talk according to my thinking simultaneously, not just preparing it, remembering it, and deliver it to the camera. And that delivering process, it's a totally brain shutdown process for me because I no longer need to think. I just have to remember what I want to say. And actually remembering what you want to say, according to the teleprompter, you feel so nervous because reading is ability and speaking is not an ability. They are not the same. They're different. I know people sometimes making a mistake by thinking they're the same, but actually they are not the same. They're totally different. So when you're reading from a teleprompter, you're actually cheating because you want to practice and you deliver a message to your audience, but actually you're not. You just read whatever you've been given to. You just read whatever you prepared it. I feel brain damage. My brain is totally in a malfunction mode. So I decided not to read from the teleprompter. I decided not to prepare it anymore because I love making mistakes. If I say something that make myself feel so embarrassed, I could just cut it. I don't need to show you guys. But using a pre-prepared script, just so exhausting. And when things get so exhausting, so frustrating, you won't do it. You won't do it for a long term. You only do it for once or twice. You really enjoyed it, but it's a long-term business if you want to practice your English. You need to do things in a very simple way, in a very low-cost way, make you feel like you can actually continue to do it over and over again and actually enjoy it, actually get fun out of it. You cannot just focus on making things perfect, deliver things in a very delicate way. It will make you feel perfect and wonderful, but just for one moment, because it's not sustainable. And I think making mistakes is the only way that you can actually see the progress. Making mistakes make you feel so embarrassed, make you feel like you are not able to practice English enough. You are not be able to speak English properly. But making mistakes is the only way to make me feel free, because I'm no longer care about making mistakes, because I'm no longer focusing in my narrow mind that I'm making these mistakes. I could express myself freely. I could talk freely. When you feel that you are no longer focusing on making mistakes, you are free yourself. You are a swimmer in this English practicing pool. You're no longer restraining yourself. You no longer feel like I'm not fit in practicing English. So if you want to practice English, just make mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the more liberating you will feel. The more encouraged you will feel. The more brave you will feel. Just like all those native speakers, they have so many thoughts, so many things they want to talk about. So they have to stop and then start again. They have to make all those mistakes. They have to say something to make other people understand. They try to reorganize their head to make other people understand. Reciting is not a process of thinking, but speaking with your own mind is you will love thinking, because speaking is a way of thinking. And if you're not thinking, you're no longer speaking. That's why you cannot speak, because you are not thinking. You are not using your brain. Okay, that's today's talk. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.